Good evening. I'm Bob Schwartz of the Gay Liberation Network, and sitting to my left is Manuel Revueltas
Yep.
of the Free Nestora campaign. Tonight we are going to talk about a young activist and other political prisoners who are imprisoned in Mexico. For those of you who know the Gay Liberation Network, we don't focus on only gay identity issues. We are an organization that practices what we call solidarity politics. You know from past programs, and if you've gone to our webpage, you're aware that we are involved in many campaigns for immigration rights, for immigrants' rights, for African American rights. We participated in protests, for example, against the police brutality recently occurring in Ferguson, Missouri. Tonight we do want to talk about Nestora Salgado, and I want to read just a little bit of a letter that she sent to her sister from the prison in Mexico. She says that prison is painful and weighs very heavy on me. The conditions of my imprisonment are not like what you see in the movies, where inmates have contact with each other. As you know, I live in isolation similar to those of a rabid dog. I cannot speak or communicate with anyone. This is very painful. It was especially painful on my 43rd birthday, which I had to spend without the company of my grandchildren, my daughters, my husband, Jose Luis, and all the members of my family. I really suffered in the absence of music, food, dancing, and especially without the company of all of you. Now, we want to learn more about this young activist who has now spent 1 year in a prison in Mexico. So, Manuel, what can you tell us about Nestora?
Well, a lot of stuff. Nestora, she's a Seattle, Washington, a resident, U.S. citizen, and she was traveling back and forth in Mexico with the humanitarian campaigns, and basically she was bringing clothes and toys to people in Mexico. And then one of those trips that she got in Mexico, she started to create a self-defense group, community police self-defense group. And once she started to do the job in Mexico, the Mexican government, they noticed that they are having a lot of success in Mexico, and they are touching, corrupt politicians, and they are touching social crime cartels, and they decide, you are doing a really good job, and they fabricate a false charges, and they put it in prison right now. And that happened in 2012, 2013, and right now she's in prison. Even if the federal judge in March this year, 2014, they issue our order to release her, and the judge dropped the charges. Then still from March to now, she's still in prison. She's still in jail.
So she did her job really too well as the head of this community police organization, which is approved by the provincial and the federal constitution in Mexico. She did her job really too well, stepped on toes of powerful people, and ended up in prison. Is that a way to put it?
Yeah, that's the way to put it. The group that she created in Guerrero, her hometown is Olinala, Guerrero. It's a southwest area in Mexico. She created the defense group, and they are doing an extraordinary job. In 2012, 2011, the indexes of kidnappings and murders and deaths in Guerrero, they were really high, especially in their area. Then she started working with the community, and they proved that once the community is involved in the policy, they can make a change, and they start to drop in those indexes of murders and kidnappings.
Well, it's important, I think, to recognize that this is not like a local Mexican situation alone.
No.
I mean,
no.
I mean, certainly there are dynamics that are peculiar to politics in Mexico and that kind of thing. But since Mexico is really close to the United States, it could be assumed that the corporations in the United States and the NAFTA, the so-called free trade agreement, that these things may have a role in what's happened to Nestora.
Yes, well, what the last thing probably the Mexican government they wanted is that people they take some responsibility and duties of the government. And the last thing that the people, the government in Mexico, they wanted is the people they get organized in this case as a defense group, because when a corporations they are coming and they're taking their lands, then what happened is the people they can respond in a different ways, and that's probably one of the main fears of the Mexican government, that the community self-defense group they is spread over the country. But as you mentioned before, is a legal entity. By the Constitution, you can create your own community self-defense group. And the reason is because in the 1600s, we were, as you know, as everybody know, Mexico was a colony of Spain. Then the territory that was really big and difficult to have a police everywhere. Then in that time, the government, in this case, Spain from Spain, of course, they allowed the indigenous people to have their own community policy, and they tell them, well, as long as you have and you rule it by your own traditions, you can have it your own policy and your own security, and this when it comes under the Constitution, but it's completely legal to do it over there.
Okay, let's move into some announcements before Manny and I continue our conversation. On the screen is the web address for the Gay Liberation Network. Please go there to find out more about our activities. Call Me Cuchu is a film about David Cato, who was an activist, an LGBT activist in Uganda, who was assassinated by anti-gay forces in that country. As some people may know, there's been a lot of anti-gay activity in Uganda, Nigeria, and Russia lately, with notorious kill the gays bills being passed by the parliaments in those countries. David Cato was a leader of the gay community in Uganda, as I mentioned, and his death really sparked an outpouring of support for gay people and gay people taking to the streets. A film on David Cato entitled Call Me Kuchu. Kuchu is a term for LGBT people in Uganda. Apparently it's a friendly term. The film will be shown at 6:30 p.m. on Friday, September 12th at the Broadway United Methodist Church, which is located at 3338 North Broadway in the so-called Boys Town area of Chicago. So we are encouraging people to come to that film presentation, and an offering will be taken up for support for Africans from Uganda and other places who are seeking asylum in the United States and in Chicago. The website for the Nestora Salgado campaign is freenestora.org, and people are encouraged to go to that webpage to learn more about this courageous woman. She is the head of a police force, or was until she was jailed, in Mexico, which is known for its machismo. But the people there selected her as the head of the police force because they respected her. Okay, back with Manuel from the Free Nestora campaign. What action can people take to support Nestora? What can people do who believe that she has been imprisoned wrongly? What can they do to support her?
Well, they can go to the website, thefreenestora.org. That's the organization that we represent here in Chicago. They can call as well the Secretary of State. The main number, they can call John Kerry. That's important to mention that the Secretary of State, even though she is a U.S. citizen, the Secretary of State, they aren't doing nothing. Then the people can call the Secretary of State and call John Kerry to intervene in behalf of Nestora as a U.S. citizen. That's one thing that they can do. Another thing they can do is urge as well the senators, because she's living in Seattle. They can call the senators Patty Murray and Maria Conwell to join Congressman Adam Smith. Adam Smith is the congressman. He's the only one that was calling in to support and to keep an eye on this case to the Secretary of State, and they can call as well the senators as well, and of course join us in any demonstration that we have. Like last week we have a demonstration in the consulate, August 21st.
Yeah, we're running pictures now of the protest at the Mexican consulate that Manny just mentioned, which was held on August 21st. There have been other protests there as well, and we had a good turnout of people from our organization, Gay Liberation Network, and many others who turned out to chant and carry signs and demand that Nestora and others, there are a number of other people who are political prisoners who are being held as well, that all of these people should be freed. I think we're coming up on there's the vice consul of the consulate here in Chicago. I don't know his name. Do you know his name?
I don't recall the name.
Well,
no,
it's not important. That was the vice consul, and he came out to grab a cigarette break and ran into this protest. And so he listened to chants, he listened to a statement, and he responded to some questions.
Agustin Rodriguez, that's his name. Yeah, I remember. Agustin Rodriguez is his name.
Rodriguez, yes.
Yeah, I remember now.
Yes, and he agreed to take the concerns of the protesters to the consul.
Yeah, unfortunately, not even the Mexican government is doing nothing. And the most important thing is in March this year, March 2014, the judge they ruled that there's no charges for her. They gotta be released. And from March to now, nothing has happened. Right now she's in that twilight zone where nothing happened. She's in the dark. She's in we don't know exactly in what condition. The only source of information that we have is her sister and his daughter that come to visit her every 14 days. But the last information that they told us is that they are starting in the jail. They're starting to give it the medication for people with heavy medication. She needs a killer painkillers because she had an accident back in the days. But they are mixing the medicine and they're giving something really strange because the daughter is telling us that now her behavior is completely different. He's starting to be a different person. Then we don't know exactly what's happening, but they are doing something over there. She's telling us, according to the letter that you read, that I think what they are trying to do is break her will. And probably close an agreement and tell them, you know what, don't return to Mexico anymore, return to the United States, and don't return to Mexico anymore. It's important to mention that probably the only reason why she's alive is because she's a U.S. citizen. She was not a U.S. citizen, probably she was already dead.
Yeah, well, that's that could be part of the reality. As I mentioned before, the others who are being held should not be forgotten.
Yeah.
And I believe if one were to go to the webpage, the freenestora.com, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
.org. Yeah, freenestora.org. That there would be information there on the other political prisoners, and information on how to contact the Secretary of State, John Kerry, and the members of the Illinois congressional delegation. I mean, this information is all publicly available, but if it's in one place, then it's easier for people to to access it and to take action.
Yeah.
Because it's as you well know, being part of the campaign, governments can pull all kinds of stuff if they're operating behind the scenes and in the dark and nobody knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the spying of the United States government was not widely known except to a few members of Congress and of course the National Security Agency until Edward Snowden blew the whistle and put the spotlight of publicity on what they were doing. So that's what I believe we're trying to do in this case. It's to let people know what's going on so they can take action.
And I think that's it has a little bit of relation with her case as well, because the case is not pretty well known. Another thing that probably is not really well known is because she's an immigrant, and immigrants, they have a different role. They have a role here in the United States. They are homeowners, they are small home business, they are entrepreneurs, they are in arts as well, they are in the television. I mean, there are different roles. But the role that she's taking care, or she's rolling right now doing, is she start to work in social activities and social change. And probably that's the next step that a probably immigrant they need to be open to. I mean, be not just a homeowner, they be not just a business owner, but be a people of social change. Then that's what she's doing. Then probably I think that's one of the reasons probably here in the United States is not too really well known, because she's a really regular person. I mean, she just started from nothing doing this kind of job in Mexico, and she was doing a lot of social work as well in Seattle.
Well, homeowners and people working their jobs are not likely to attract attention, but when you become an agent for social change,
There you go. Yeah,
that's when
that's different.
that's when people who have a vested interest in no change or only in change that benefits them, the powerful people that control societies, when you step on their toes in advocating for change and taking steps to protect indigenous people and their land, or whatever the particular issue might be, I mean, that's when you're going to run afoul of the forces of oppression that want to keep people in their place and maintain the status quo.
Exactly. In her case, not even in the Spanish-speaking television, not in Univision, Telemundo, just barely touched probably the issue, which is really important for me because, well, she's an immigrant, U.S. citizen, Latino community, and they barely talk about it. They barely talk about it. I don't know why. I don't know exactly the reason, but my perception is if they release Nestora, it's like telling the other people, you know what? If you feel that you can change your surrounding, go do it, and you're not gonna have any problem. You are free to do it, and probably that's why they keep it like that. I mean, we are really afraid they're probably gonna be like that for years. Some prisoners, political prisoners, they have been like that in Mexico for. The last example is Alberto Patistan. She was a Zapatista. She was for like that for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they judged, they ruled there was no reason to be in prison, and he was for like 10 years. I don't think that's gonna happen with Nestora, but still 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. That's not acceptable, especially if the judge already they issue an order that there's no charge there's no reason you to be in prison and jail.
Is there a way to put pressure on the provincial authorities to follow the order of the federal judge?
When the federal judge they issue the order, the reason why they say is, well, we haven't received the order. It's still there in the, let's say, in the mail. What happened is they are trying to have those charges, which was a kidnap. I mean, they fabricated the charges against her, and an association with criminals. There was the charges. There were fabricated charges. The judge dropped the charges, but now they are trying to create a new ones, fabricate a new ones. And of course, the list is long. I mean, they can have it for this and this and this and this. I mean, they can do something. Of course, we're thinking is right now they are trying to find more charges to keep it in jail, more time as much as possible.
Well, if the Spanish language, you mentioned Telemundo, if the Spanish language media is the same as the other media here in the United States, they're controlled by corporate interests who have a vested interest in keeping things as they are, and not fomenting change, but maintaining the status quo and denigrating people who are advocates for justice, for social justice, as troublemakers and agitators and that kind of thing. We need to finish up here pretty quickly, but I just want to read the final comment of Nestora in her letter to her sister. I am not broken. I will hold on as long as necessary. I am thankful to all the women and men who support me in Mexico and in other countries. I want to salute all those women and men who fight every day in their towns or wherever they may be for a democratic, just, and free Mexico, purged of organized crime and corrupt officials. So let's put on the web page for the Free Nestora campaign, freenestora.org. There's another picture of her, and the website one more time. Call Me Kuchu. We want to mention once again the film on David Cato, which will be shown on September 12th at the Broadway United Methodist Church, 3338 North Broadway at 6:30 p.m. Our next meeting, the Gay Liberation Network, will be at 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 3rd at the Berger Park Cultural Center at the intersection of Sheridan and Granville. The next program of the Gay Liberation Network on CAN TV will be at 6:30 p.m. on September 12th, so please tune in if you're not at the film.